Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Theory of Life podcast. We have a very special guest, Dr. Michael Huemer. This is very exciting. We were going to have John on, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. So we have Dr. Huemer, and this is going to be a great conversation. If you could introduce yourself, that would be great. What do you do? Tell us everything.
Okay, I'm Michael Huemer. I'm a professor of philosophy at the University of Colorado in Boulder.
Okay.
I know where I've been for, decades. And, I've written about epistemology, ethics, meta-ethics, political philosophy, a small amount of meta-ethics. So I've written about a lot of things. I have like 90 published papers and about 12 books that everybody should immediately go and buy on Amazon.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to link.
Popular blog called Fake News on Substack.
Yes.
FAKENOUS.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, so it's kind of crazy because I looked up the UC Boulder philosophy acceptance rate, and it was like less than 5, and I was like, I want to go, be a student with Dr. Michael Huemer. Never mind. So yeah,
we get a couple hundred applications every year, and we have maybe 6 slots or something like that. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and 100 papers and 12 books. That is I was telling a friend before, like an hour ago. She was like, "Who is Dr. Michael Huemer?" And I was like, "It's this person. He's written like thousands of papers and like so many books. It's so impressive."
This is getting better and better. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I've written 1 million books. I've written every book. They're all
every book ever in the universe. Yeah, cool. Well, I mean, I'm here, as I was just telling you before we started recording. I am not super educated. I like this, as a pastime, and I like studying it. But I'm here to learn, and I feel like sometimes in this context, the person who's hosting has a tendency to raise thousands of objections. But I kind of feel like I'm not in a place to where I can raise objections. I can raise them, but it's not going to be I am right and I'm going to beat Dr. Michael Huemer. That's not what's going to happen. So I'll let you have the floor. I'm interested in some views that you have about epistemology and morality. So those are, and you're very famous for those. So if you could describe your views on epistemology, phenomenal conservatism, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I was thinking about how beliefs are justified. I mean, I got into this because I was worried about skepticism. The skeptics think that maybe we don't know anything, or we don't know anything about the external world, or whatever. And usually the problem is supposed to be that we can't justify our beliefs. Okay, so I was thinking about how beliefs are justified. And, so I came to this view, which I've been defending for a long time, that beliefs are justified by appearances. So, in colloquial terms, it makes sense to assume that things are pretty much the way they seem, unless you have specific reasons to think otherwise. Okay, these grounds for doubt would themselves have to come from other appearances. So, I see a desk in front of me. It looks to me like there's a desk. So I should just assume that there's a desk. That's like the simplest thing for me to think. That's why it looks like there's a desk, because there is one, unless I have grounds for doubting that. So okay, well, maybe if I've just taken some hallucinogenic drugs or something, then I could have reason for doubting it. But if there's nothing else going on, then I should just stick with the presumption that it is what it seems to be. Okay, that's the basic view.
Yeah. I mean, one thing, so I've described this view to a few friends, and their gut reaction is something like, well, obviously sometimes there are seemings that you shouldn't believe, because sometimes your intuitions are wrong. It's like, well, obviously. But I think the important point is that you can have defeaters for these intuitions, right? So not every intuition that you have is going to be right. So that's.
So by the way, in philosophy and epistemology in particular, philosophers use this word intuition perhaps differently from ordinary English. It's sort of a technical term. So intuitions are a particular kind of appearance. So something seems to you to be the case, but it's not perceptual. It's like you reflect on something intellectually, and something seems right to you. So that's an intuition. The shortest path between any 2 points must be a straight line. And if the way you come to that is you just think about it and it seems obvious, it's like it has to be that way, and that's an intuition.
Yeah. I mean, some people seem to think that when I use the word intuition, when philosophers use the word intuition, they mean something like, it slipped my mind. What was it? It literally slipped my mind. Something less than what you just said.
Yeah,
There was a word in my head, and then it just left.
yeah,
Suspicion.
well,
Suspicion.
yeah,
People
like
seem to think intuitions are suspicions, but they're not just suspicions. There's something
yeah.
more than
Yeah.
that.
So like, oh, you meet a person and you have a bad feeling about him, and then you say, I had an intuition about him.
No, you
Okay,
didn't.
that would be the ordinary language use, maybe, but
Yeah.
that's not really what philosophers are talking about. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But so intuitions are a type of seeming or type of appearance, and just appearances in general give you justification for believing things in the absence of grounds for doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing. Again, in my uneducated experience, I actually tend to be more a reductionistic kind of thinker, right? Because I grew up in a religious environment, and then I did the whole new atheist thing, right? And from that, you have to just reject everything that's intuitive. So I'm kind of a skeptic of free will, but like my conversations with John have made me more sympathetic to moral realism and maybe some libertarian pictures, also compatibilism. So I'm getting out of my reductionism a little bit. But so back in the day, I would be very against intuitions, right? Like I would kind of equivocate that with suspicions. But I'm coming around to it. This is something we could also get into like in a few minutes. I want to think about it, but we don't have to get there right now. But I'm wondering like what implications this has for like the utility of philosophy, right? Because like in my head, like I kind of have a divide between analytic philosophy and living your life, and I don't know if there should be a divide. And I actually see your work as like the bridge between those two things, right? And that's what makes me very interested because like I feel very disconnected somewhere, and like I want to unify those things. But anyway, those are a few thoughts.
Right. Well, I guess like the philosophical positions that I defend are the things that I in fact believe.
Yeah,
So if it is relevant, then I will act in accordance with it.
yeah,
No, I suppose an example would be, okay, so like I believe that it's wrong to buy products that come from factory farms because I think pain is bad and
yes,
it's wrong to cause a lot of bad stuff for the sake of minor benefits for yourself. Okay,
yeah,
yeah, so I would describe that as an intuition
yeah,
about
yeah,
wrongness. Like
yeah.
if it's
That's fair.
not wrong to do that, then I don't know what's wrong. So
Yeah,
anyway, and so
um,
I don't do it. So I don't buy the factory farm products. Okay.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
actually, my philosophy affected my life.
Dr. Michael Huemer is correct about this. Everyone should become vegan after this video. But yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, so I've had this conversation with John a lot. I mean, so I'm still on the fence though, right? Because like I make this distinction between intuitions and direct perceptions. And so another thing I want some help doing, so like take what I'm saying and put it in a philosophical like syntax, use like philosophical language to describe what I'm saying. Because there's people out there who have my views, but I'm not exactly sure what they would call themselves. So there's externalists and internalists, and there's this whole debate. And I'm not completely familiar with all of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was just a thought.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah. Were we going to talk about the internalism externalism distinction?
We can. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I think this will open up the door into that because I make this distinction between intuitions and direct perceptions, right? And I don't even know if you would disagree with this, but it actually seems to me that a direct perception is going to be more reliable than an intuition, right? And so, what would be an analogy? The fact that I'm seeing my phone, that's more reliable than an intuition about something that isn't directly in front of me, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, appearances can have different levels of reliability. So, like your philosophical intuitions as a class are generally going to be less reliable than, say, your sensory perceptions. It's
Yeah,
very rare for people to hallucinate.
yeah,
It's possible. Okay, and there are sensory illusions that occur in certain cases that you can, look up
yeah,
these sensory illusions. Okay, you can be
mhm,
deceived by your senses, but really in ordinary life, it's very rare.
yeah,
But, and also though, like some intuitions are really reliable. So like if you're doing mathematics, then like we have these axioms, and it's
hmm,
very rare to get the axioms wrong, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
for real.
then and then you can do these deductions. And by the way, like just just so people understand, like in my view, all justification comes down to appearances. Everything
Yeah,
that you want to if you want to say that you have some other way of justifying things, I'm probably going to say no. That's also appearances. Okay, So like,
Yeah.
oh, so you go through a reasoning process and
Mhm.
you justify beliefs that way. Well, that's also appearances. It's also
Yeah.
based on appearances. So, you have a premise and then you have a conclusion, and it's got to seem to you that the premise supports the conclusion. Otherwise, you're not going to draw the conclusion. So that's
Yeah.
also appearance-based justification.
Yeah.
You also have to like have an appearance of the premise is true or something like that. Okay, so anyway, so
Yeah.
you're doing mathematics, and like that's highly reliable.
Hmm.
So it's not really about sensory versus intuitive, right?
Yeah.
Because there are like large classes of intuitions that are less reliable. So when
Yeah.
people are doing philosophy, like oh, philosophers frequently have conflicting intuitions, and just like they're frequently wrong.
Hmm.
Philosophers are usually wrong. So
Yeah.
okay, so just have less confidence, right? But the general principle does still apply. There's still some justification for believing things are the way they seem, but
Yeah.
you have reasons for doubting it if it then turns out that other people don't share the same appearances as you.
Yeah. This is interesting. I was actually thinking the other day in the car. I was like, I wonder if we can make an inductive argument against some kind of phenomenal conservatism. I wonder. This is just a random idea. I have no idea if this works. But I'm wondering, like, if our seemings are wrong enough times, can we assume that perhaps maybe our seemings aren't right this time? It was just a random argument that I came up with in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think that this is what moral skeptics are saying, right? Or this is one of the things that they're saying, like, oh, well, people just go wrong about morality so often, which you can tell because
Mhm.
there's a lot of disagreement about morality, and so then we should just think that our moral intuitions are not reliable. That wouldn't apply to everything. It just looks like there's something about morality, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, that's like on its face a rational argument.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I don't agree with that. Partly because I think they're exaggerating the amount of disagreement, right?
Hmm.
But that would be yeah, that's a legitimate ground for doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. Um, yeah. That's interesting. I mean, I feel like, hmm, I feel like in order to explore this more, we need to go into a topic that will use the tools of phenomenal conservatism. You know what I mean, right? So when it comes to moral realism, um, I don't know. I have a few concerns. They're not really interesting concerns. Well, how about this? But like before we get into that, like how
You want
about
to lower expectations before you say your idea.
uh, but maybe you could define some terms for the three people out there listening. Like, what is moral realism, and like, what are some perspectives with respect
Oh,
to morality? Yeah, give
yeah.
the like.
Well, yeah. So like, there's this big debate about whether there are objective values or something like that. Whether morality is objective, there are objective evaluative facts or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what does this mean? Objective means something like it's independent of observers' attitudes. Okay, so when you say that an action is wrong, um, are you attempting to describe a fact about it that would exist independent of your attitude? Or is it only that it's wrong depending upon whether we approve of the thing or not, or how we feel about it, or what we want?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Moral realists are people who think there are evaluative facts that are objective.
Hmm.
Right,
Yeah.
so, okay, what could be an example? I don't know, like, you shouldn't torture babies for fun.
Yeah.
Just for fun of it. Okay.
Probably true.
Um, okay, so yeah, why do I say that? So like, well, it's true, right? You shouldn't torture babies for fun. Okay, so it's a true statement. So it looks like it's a fact, and is it
Yeah.
objective or subjective? Well, if you like torturing babies for fun, is it still wrong? Yes, it is. If you approve of
Yeah.
torturing babies for fun, is it still wrong? Actually, yes. Okay. Well,
Hmm.
what if society adopted a convention according to which you're allowed to torture babies for fun? Is it still wrong?
That's
Yes.
irrelevant.
Okay. Well, that's you're supposed to like have the intuitive reaction. Yes, it's still wrong in all these circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like it's wrong, independent of the attitudes of observers. So it looks
Yeah.
like that's objective. So there's at least one objective moral fact. Okay.
Yeah. 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 That's fair. I mean, this is one worry I have with some subjectivist notions of morality. It actually kind of seems as though like morality by its very nature, if it exists at all, is going to be objective. Like so when I hear people talk about subjective morality, it actually feels a little bit like oxymoronic or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but then I started like listening to you actually flesh out the different views and their nuances, and I read some things.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you can speak on that a little bit.
Yeah. So okay. So there's a bunch of anti-realists. Anti-realists are people who reject moral realism. So
Boo.
they think that there are no objective evaluative facts, no objective moral values or whatever.
Yep.
So if there aren't any objective evaluative facts, it looks like there are three alternatives. So I gave the example of it being wrong to torture babies for fun. Okay, so how could that not be an objective moral fact? So one possibility is that actually it's false. It's not wrong to torture babies for fun. Okay,
Yeah.
now there are some people who think this. They're known as nihilists. So they think that nothing is either right or wrong, nor is anything either good or bad. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Guilty
then,
as.
yeah. Okay. So I don't know. It seems extreme, but anyway. And then okay. So it could be that it's false, or it could be that it's neither true nor false. And this is the view of the non-cognitivists or the expressivists, because every once in a while philosophers have to change the terminology or something. So now
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So how could it be neither true nor false? And the main answer to that is, well, maybe when you say that it's wrong, you're not actually making a claim. It
Yeah.
looks like it's an assertion, but it's actually just an expression of your feelings, right? Or maybe it's a disguised imperative. Like when you say it's wrong to torture babies for fun, that's just like saying don't torture babies for fun,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is not either true or
Like,
false.
and,
It's a command, not an
yeah.
assertion. Okay, now grammatically it's an assertion, but maybe the grammar is just misleading, and what it
Yeah.
really means is more like a command, or more, or
Right.
an expression like, "Oh, torturing babies, boo."
Yeah.
Okay, so which you notice is neither true nor false. Okay, all right. So if it's not an objective moral fact, either it's false or it's neither true nor false, or it could be true, but its truth would have to be dependent on the attitudes of observers. And it looks
Yeah.
like those are the only alternatives, right? So if you
Yeah.
admit that it is true or false, and it's not that it's false, then it has to be true. And
Yeah.
if its truth doesn't depend on observers, then it's an objective moral truth.
Yeah.
So these are the only three alternatives, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's super helpful. I mean, yeah, I don't mean to like pick a subjective as randomly, but like my mind is here. I'm actually having trouble understanding how truth could be dependent on the minds of observers. Like it seems to me that like truth by its very nature is like independent of the minds of observers. So I don't
Yeah.
understand. I don't get
Well,
it.
so I mean, there are some examples of things that are widely thought to be subjective. So if somebody says that a joke is funny, is that reporting an objective fact about the joke?
Yeah.
And okay, yeah, so it's widely thought to be subjective, and then what that would mean is um, it's funny depending on whether it amuses people.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and you notice that although the sentence didn't mention observers, maybe
Yeah.
the truth
Yeah.
conditions of it nevertheless refer to observers. So
Yeah. Yeah. So it wouldn't be like true that it's funny in general, but it's like true to someone that it's
I
funny.
mean,
Like
yeah,
funny to.
well, yeah. I mean, if everybody is amused, then it's a universal
Yeah.
truth.
That's helpful. That's helpful.
But
Yeah.
might amuse some audiences and not others. So it's funny to some people, but not funny to others.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'd have to think about it a little bit. Like something still feels a little bit strange. Like, but no, that's definitely yeah. So I don't know. John's been trying to dissuade me of this non-cognitivist. I kind of am sympathetic towards some kind of emotivism. You're probably familiar with the work of Alex O'Connor. He's a big name. Yeah.
I've seen him.
Um,
I've seen him on YouTube.
yeah.
He's a good podcaster. Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, I met him in person too. It was
Oh,
awesome.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
I would like to go on his podcast too. So if you see him, tell him to need to
that
go.
would be a dream come true. That'd be sick. But yeah, I mean, okay, I wrote down three arguments. So this is kind of a weird phenomenon, right? Because like I was telling John, like it's weird because I feel like I forget why I believe things across time. Like I believe things and I forget like what my reasoning was. So
Yeah.
I find myself like trying to figure out like why I believe these things now, and it doesn't quite feel right. It's like maybe that's why I believe them, but I don't know.
This is like Nietzsche. I think there was a point where he commented that he had enough trouble remembering what he believed, let alone why he believed it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't, but no, I kind of boiled it down to three ideas. I mean, you've heard them before. I mean, you've talked about them before, but like, I mean, they're still very persuasive. Like, they seem like good counter arguments. I mean, I don't know. Like, moralism is pretty. It's pretty weird. Like, I mean, like, it's pretty spooky, so to speak. It feels a little. So I think you and Emerson Green talked about this on his podcast episode, and I think y'all brought up Platonism. I think maybe he raised the objection that it seems weird, but then you were like, "Well, I believe in other Platonic objects, and like those aren't too weird, so why should moral facts be weird?" I don't know. It does kind of seem as though like moral facts are weirder.
Yeah.
So I.
Well, okay. And this weirdness, is that an objective property?
Yeah. No. Well, that's a question.
So here's an interpretation. It's just a subjective reaction on the part of certain viewers, not even all people or all reasonable people, just like certain people in a certain culture just have this
Yeah.
subjective reaction that it feels weird to them. And so then we have to ask, okay, is that evidential?
No. Yeah. No.
Is that evidence
So
that the thing doesn't exist?
that's fair. So maybe I can ground this a little bit more. I mean, I suppose if I'm going to use big words, I guess it would make someone's ontology a little bit heavier, maybe. Right? It's less simple. Now I know from what I've heard you say, you're not like you don't necessarily care about simplicity as much as other people do, which is fine. But I don't know, like if you're comparing like worldviews in general, like there just is simplicity cost when you
Yeah,
are more.
so I mean, I have a paper about simplicity called "When is Parsimony a Virtue" or something like that. My,
Okay, I need to read that.
I mean, okay, so yeah, like, oh, well, why does anybody care about how simple or parsimonious a theory is? Why do we care? Like, so I don't know, here's an answer. We get to assume a priori that the world is simple. Why would that?
So that actually doesn't seem crazy to me on the face of it, but I'm not. Who
Like,
knows?
it, it could be simple, it could be complicated. Like, why would we think it's more likely to be simple than complicated? Like, and like, there aren't very many answers to that, right? It's kind of hard to answer that.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have a better answer, I think, which is that usually simpler theories are more confirmable. Okay, and the account of why simplicity matters is tied to the account of what simplicity is. So my account of what simplicity is it has to do with a number of adjustable parameters in a theory. And
Okay.
so there's sort of like a general structure of the theory, and then within the theory there are different things, different ways that you could adjust assumptions to enable the theory to accommodate your evidence. And
Okay.
the more places there are to adjust the theory to accommodate the evidence, the more complex it is
Okay.
in the sense that matters. And it's worse to have more, and it's better to have fewer things that can be adjusted. The reason for
Yeah.
this is the more adjustable parameters you have, the wider the range of possible evidence that could be accommodated.
Okay.
And it's better to have a narrow range of evidence that could be accommodated if the evidence in fact falls in that range. Of course,
Yeah.
if the evidence falls outside the range, then your theory is refuted. Okay, but so in the typical case, there's a simple theory and a complex theory that they're both consistent with the actual evidence that we've gathered. In that case, the simpler theory will generally be more supported by the evidence. Right?
Yeah.
Because like the evidence happened to fall in this narrow range that it predicted, and then the more complex theory, there was just a much wider range of possibilities consistent with it, so it didn't make as strong of a prediction, so it's less strongly supported.
Okay.
And so, I could give examples of this, like from science. Like this, I think this is why Copernican astronomy was better than Ptolemaic astronomy.
Okay.
Because in Copernican astronomy, just like the planets are all going around the sun, and then in Ptolemaic astronomy, the planets are going around the Earth, but also there's an additional circle. There's
Yeah.
like it's going around a circle, but that circle is itself going around the Earth. So then you can adjust the radius and speed of the epicycle in addition to the main orbit. So
Yeah. Yeah. And what was the name of that paper again? I want to read that to get a better
when is
understanding.
parsimony a virtue?
What is parsimony virtue? Okay. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
okay,
That.
so
Yeah.
suppose I'm right about why simplicity matters, then there are going to be a lot of times when simplicity doesn't matter.
Okay.
So it's not that the simpler theory is a priori more likely to be true. It's that it's easier to support if it succeeds in predicting the evidence.
Okay.
Okay, so then you've got moral realism and you've got anti-realism. What are the adjustable parameters in these theories? I don't know. It's not
Yeah.
even clear that that's a relevant question for this.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and like okay, and then like what's the range of facts that what's the evidence to be accommodated, and what's the range of facts that they predict? Maybe the evidence is our intuitions,
Hmm.
we're
Yeah.
together, and then is non-cognitivism or expressivism consistent with that evidence? So there's a debate about that, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
it conflicts with some important intuitions, but anyway.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but if it if you say like it fits the evidence, it's hard to say what possible evidence it wouldn't fit, right? Like you think like
Yeah.
what would count as evidence against non-cognitivism that hasn't actually happened, right? And like, if you can't
Yeah.
do that, then it doesn't actually have this advantage, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't have the advantage of making sharper predictions.
Yeah. 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 I definitely have to read that paper to fully grasp everything you're saying. But I mean that's very interesting. I was gonna bring up a possible argument for the intuition that, like, a priori you can, I don't know, but I'm not sure if that's necessarily relevant. That's very interesting. I mean, I'd have to read the paper. I mean, that seems fair.
Okay.
But
Well,
like, let's see. I had a second one here. What was this? Yeah. So I'm a little bit, like, a little bit worried about some maybe evolutionary debunking arguments. I've been having, like, a lot of trouble trying to formulate this in my brain. So, like, maybe you can help me too.
yeah.
Like, so it seems as though, like, um our moral intuitions track what we've been evolved to feel, right? So it seems as though we've been evolved to be social creatures, be
Yeah.
creatures who, live in a society and coexist. If moral realism is true and we have accurate moral intuitions, it just so happens that we also have a set of beliefs that, like, just perfectly matched on to, like, our evolutionary, like, tendencies. And like, I don't know, like, maybe a good explanation of that is they were just the same thing. They're just desires and tendencies, right? Maybe they're not beliefs about facts. Does that kind of make sense? Did I articulate that okay?
Right. Yeah. Um, I mean, it started with what you're saying. Started with, I guess, saying that it looks like evolution could explain our moral attitudes. Pretty
Yeah.
well. There are some cases where that appears to be true. There, like specific things, specific examples you give, like people think that you have a special obligation to your own offspring.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like, okay, like if there's two starving children, one of them is your kid, the other one is somebody else's kid, you
Yeah. Probably.
have to give the food to your kid. You have to feed your kid before
Yeah.
the other kid. And it's not, not only that you're allowed to, but you're obligated to. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, I can see the evolutionary explanation for that.
Yeah.
Okay, but is it just a few examples, or is there a widespread explanation?
Mm.
Okay, and so consider this, like, okay, well, I learned from Richard Dawkins that the selfish gene theory is the correct account of evolution and evolutionary psychology.
Mm.
So, what values would we expect? I guess I would expect most people to be ethical egoists or something close to that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or really, or maybe more precisely, they would think that like the good is maximization of reproduction. The good is reproduction, and so the correct ethics is maximize reproduction, or
Yeah.
something something that's in the neighborhood, or like maybe maximize the welfare of your own family or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But actually, almost everyone's ethics is almost the opposite. Like almost everyone thinks that egoism is wrong, and like,
Hmm. Yeah.
okay. So, and now I do think that you can debunk specific. There are certain specific moral beliefs that could be debunked because it looks like they have an evolutionary explanation, um,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and they don't look like objective facts. Okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
So like, oh, there's this thing like, the double standard between males and females. Like, sexual promiscuity for males is fine, but for females it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
That's well.
weird. So just like on the face of it, when you think about it, it's
Yeah.
weird, and it's hard to explain why that would be
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
A lot of people have this feeling that there's like a super easy evolutionary explanation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Like,
like, I
yeah,
suppose, like, it doesn't seem like um entirely implausible that, like, all of our moral intuitions would have evolved across time. But I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
yeah,
Like, maybe if evolution was responsible for all of our intuitions, like, we would be egoists or something.
yeah.
Um, Like,
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say was, well, people's moral beliefs and attitudes have changed a lot over history, and this is happening across the world. So, and they've
yeah,
moved in a certain direction. So they've liberalized over history for like the last couple thousand years.
yeah,
So, and, like
that's,
it used to be that slavery was widely practiced, and now it's banned everywhere in the world, and like almost everyone agrees that it's unjust.
yeah,
Okay, but it used to be like most societies would have thought that was fine. Okay, so
yeah,
then the evolutionary psychologists are going to be explaining which values. Are they going to explain our current values or the values that we had in the past?
mm,
So they could
yeah,
maybe explain the values that we had in the past, which were illiberal and kind of evil. But then they can't
mm,
explain why we have these current values. And the values that we currently have, maybe,
yeah,
plausibly, resulted
yeah,
from overcoming the biases that were
yeah,
inculcated into us by our genes. Right, because
yeah,
you could understand why our genes would have given us these tendencies, like
yeah,
maybe to want to enslave other people or something like that. Okay, so
mm,
my story is, well, it looks like we overcame those biases, and that's how we are liberalizing.
yeah, yeah. That's very interesting. I mean, I do wonder if like we've had the same moral intuitions all along. It's just we at sometimes we're confused, right? So
Yeah.
if that's the case, then it seems as though like you can give an evolutionary account because nothing significantly has changed, right? Like maybe 200 years ago, we were just all in denial about our moral intuitions or something, but we discovered that we were right. Or
Well,
we
yeah.
were wrong.
I mean, um, it's kind of hard to make the case that we were wrong about our own intuitions, right? Like, what would
Yeah,
be the evidence for that? It could be that people were in denial. I mean, I don't know if there's evidence for that, but it could be that like people
yeah,
had self-interested reasons for sort of like not looking at the wrongness of what they were doing, right? Like, if you own
yeah,
slaves, you have a very strong motive to
yeah,
not understand why slavery is wrong or pretend that you don't understand or just like not think about it.
yeah.
That's probably
Yeah.
part of why people were wrong about that for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if people like years ago, if they just sat down and thought for a little bit, like they would come to the conclusion that what they're doing is wrong. Like, would you say that's true? That seems
I mean,
plausible.
there were a lot of abolitionists 200 years ago, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Now,
um,
you know, was it the case that every thoughtful person was an abolitionist? I don't know. I don't
yeah,
think not, right?
yeah,
Aristotle supported slavery back in ancient Greece, right?
hmm yeah,
Um, he was fairly smart, like many
yeah,
people
yeah.
consider him the greatest philosopher
that,
ever
that
lived. Yeah.
that is very interesting. Actually, that's interesting because I have this idea that like, well, people just weren't really thinking the right way, but like there were people who were thinking a lot and they came to the wrong conclusion. That's very interesting. Um,
Well,
yeah,
so his reason was that he thought some people are natural slaves and like they don't know how to run their life and they need somebody else to tell them what to do.
okay.
And the only problem with this is that you also need there to be natural masters, which would
Yeah,
be which would have to be people who will benevolently, like when they get total power over someone else, they will just exercise it benevolently for the benefit of everyone. And
yeah,
there are no such people, right?
yeah,
There might
yeah,
be a few such people, but you can't like reliably identify a large group of those people. So
yeah,
that is a problem.
yeah. No, I'm gonna have to think. That's very interesting. I'm gonna have to think about that. Yeah. Well, so okay. You're probably. I'm gonna ask you. Are you familiar with the work of Dustin Crummett? He's the philosopher of religion.
Well,
Um,
not very much. You'll have to tell me what he said.
okay. Yeah. So he's kind of famous right now in the philosophy of religion space for well, he's famous for his argument like for psychophysical harmony, but like also he has his argument for moral knowledge for the existence of God, right? And we don't have to go down the theology route necessarily. But basically, what it gets at is it seems unlikely that evolution would give us knowledge about morality.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe it would give us feelings, like, and that is kind of why I'm inclined to be an emotivist or something adjacent. But I don't see how evolution could give us any knowledge about that. You know, that I don't.
Oh, I mean, so I think ethical intuitionism is the most popular form of moral realism. And the
Yeah,
ethical intuitionists have been widely sort of, I don't know, misunderstood by the anti-realists because the anti-realists don't pay attention to what we're actually saying. And like they get what realist would be saying, okay, so like the most popular forms of realism that people respond to are not the forms that are actually most popularly held.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
actual
okay.
realists, right? Okay. So anyway, like I think the dominant, I don't know, I think the dominant form of moral realism holds that our moral knowledge is a function of reason.
Yeah,
There's a general faculty of understanding, and it can be applied to many different subjects, including good, bad, right, and wrong.
yeah,
And so, like the most common view is not that there is a separate moral sense. Okay, so it's not a straw man. There are people who thought that. Okay,
yeah,
but I don't
yeah,
think that's the dominant view among realists.
okay.
Okay, so like we don't require a separate evolutionary explanation for like how the moral sense evolves because like we just have intelligence in general, and there just are properties of good and bad and right and wrong, and
Yeah,
human beings have a capacity to grasp abstract the
yeah,
natures of abstract objects, right? So like
yeah,
like what's going on in mathematics is you're grasping the natures of numbers and functions and other mathematical objects, and then
yeah,
okay, right. And what's going on in ethics is similarly that you're grasping the natures of these abstract objects like goodness and badness, rightness and wrongness.
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's definitely fair. Yeah, I mean, it does seem to me that like we could have like totally missed that, right? It seems as though like we could live in a world where we watch, children getting murdered or something, and we don't have a belief about the rightness or wrongness of that. And perhaps we would have a reason to back it, but it just wouldn't pick up on moral situations,
Yeah.
right? That seems possible. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure.
Well, so it appears that there are people who lack moral perception. So maybe this would be an objection to what I said, right? Like there are people who lack moral perception. There's known as psychopaths,
Yeah,
um, and they do not lack reason in general.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
okay, and I don't know about how it's correlated with IQ, so I don't know if they're above or below, but they're not like retarded.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like it's not that they're not intelligent enough to grasp this because it's like a really complicated thing. So there's something else going on. Okay.
Yeah.
And now it appears that what has gone wrong with them is that they lack empathy.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then like the non-cognitivist would want to argue that it's a non-cognitive defect, right? And that you could
Yeah.
tell because like they have perfectly good reason. Okay, but
Yeah.
what I would say is actually no, empathy is cognitive, right? So
Okay.
um,
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by empathy is cognitive? What do you mean by that?
it's a cognitive capacity. So it's a capacity to understand something. So it's a
Okay.
capacity to understand other people's perspectives and sort of like understand how they feel and what it
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
be like to
Okay.
be in this perspective. Okay, now,
Okay.
I do have to say that it's not that the psychopaths have utterly no knowledge about other people's mind. It's not that
Yeah.
they don't know that other people have pain or whatever.
They just don't.
When they commit a crime, it's not that they don't know that it causes pain to other people, but it's sort of like they can't put themselves in those shoes and like imagine what it's like for the other person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and how does that relate to morality? Well, because the facts about what you ought to do are dependent upon these different perspectives. What ought to be done it's a result of fairly taking into account all of the differing perspectives.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, like a psychopath just cannot understand other people's perspectives, and
Yeah.
so they're not able to reason morally. And I got this view partly from Iskra Faliva, who's another philosophy professor here, who's also married to me.
Awesome. Sick. That's great. um. Yeah. No. That's interesting. I had a thought. What was it? Give me a split second. Oh yeah. I mean, it does seem as though I could be empathetic, but lack the knowledge that a thing is good, right? And so, like, imagine like I watch a bunny getting killed or something terribly gross, and like I feel really sad about that. That doesn't mean I believe that it's bad. Like, I mean, maybe I do. Like, that's a separate thing, and it's not necessarily like wrapped into the empathy. But maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, yeah. How do you know that things are good or bad? And like, I think that the basics of how you come to think things are good or bad are like you have pleasure and pain or something like that. and then
Yeah.
the pain is just bad. It's just self-evident that it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now I think there could be things that could override that. So, if you are an anti-realist in general, you could convince yourself that it's not really bad,
Yeah.
but you're sort of going to have an appearance that it's bad, right?
Yeah. No, so I mean, I think that's fair. I think you can look at suffering and then believe that there is suffering, and then also believe that it is bad, right? It does seem to me though that we could live in a world where we watch suffering and we believe that it's suffering, and we also don't like that it's suffering, but there's no belief about like whether or not it's bad, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, am I like drawing a distinction
Well,
that
I mean,
isn't
that could be what happens to anti-realists and, especially nihilists, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
they would say nothing is good or bad, but they presumably are not all insane. So, like, presumably
yeah,
they would have normal reactions. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
so they'll have the emotional reaction, but they will think that there's something misleading about it or whatever, that they shouldn't trust the way things appear.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, but this is also true about like skeptics about the external world, I suppose. Like, if you found a
yeah,
really sincere external world skeptic, they would have the normal sensory experiences. It would look to them like there's a table. They would have a strong inclination, but they would tell themselves that they shouldn't believe that there's a table. So then
yeah.
maybe they would not believe that there's really a table.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm. Well, I mean, I suppose I do not believe that people are perceiving that something is right or wrong, but I mean, I can assume that's the case, right? I'm just wondering, how evolution would select for that, or how we could have that belief, given the fact that it seems completely possible that we could have emotions about things without the beliefs about them, right? Like
Oh,
without acting about it. But
well,
I don't know.
I mean, can you experience pain and have it not appear bad? Um,
I think so.
there's some.
But
So
it seems,
you can. Okay, and just as an aside, you can describe some kinds of pain that maybe don't seem bad. So, the experience of, yeah. So the experience of spicy food, the spiciness is a kind of pain, but many people
yeah,
enjoy it. So,
or like being sad at people, maybe, or something. Like, yeah,
so
it's not a bad thing. Like,
yeah. Okay,
yeah,
but so we could rephrase it to suffering, right? So when you're eating a spicy food, there's a kind of pain, but you're not suffering.
yeah,
You're enjoying it, right? Enjoyment is the opposite of suffering. Okay,
yeah.
so it could just be, is suffering bad? Okay, can you be suffering and have that not seem bad to you? I think it's.
Well,
I,
well, probably not in this world, right? But like there might be some possible world in which that's the case. You know, like because and I'm not saying there's even a possible world in which suffering could ever be good, right? Like I could assume that perhaps suffering's always bad, right? But I can also imagine a world like we're just missing some part of the reasoning faculty that it is bad. You know, we just miss it.
I'm not sure about it. I mean, would this be a person who has the concept of bad and like they can think about whether it's bad, and when they think about it, it just doesn't seem bad, right?
Well, no, they probably wouldn't have the concept of bad. Like we
Oh,
wouldn't have the concept of bad at all, right?
okay, yeah,
Um,
yeah. So I could see the argument that like, oh, like maybe an animal doesn't have the concept of badness, so it
yeah,
can't have something seem bad, but
yeah.
it can
That's
just suffer. Um, right, but
like
that
we could just be animals. Like, why aren't we just animals? Yeah.
like how is that a problem, right?
Well,
But it's not a problem for the moral realist, right? Like if you don't have the concept of something, then obviously you're not going to have the correct beliefs
yeah,
about it.
yeah. You know, I mean, that's fair. I mean, it just I don't know. I guess the general idea is like it seems like surprising that we would live in a world where beings do have the concept of good or bad. And you know, people would just I'm not a theist necessarily, but like I think the argument's really persuasive. I mean, if I was a moral realist, I would think it's more persuasive. But like, yeah, I mean, it just seems like strong evidence for God. But that's yeah. I
Yeah.
don't
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, is the general accuracy of our moral perception evidence for God? I don't think it's very good because I don't think that we're that good.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So, like, as I was mentioning, people's beliefs in the past and just like across the world used to be pretty horrible, and like horrible
Yeah.
by modern standards. Okay. So,
Yeah.
like, they didn't torture their own children for fun, but they would go to a neighboring tribe and attack it just because it's a neighboring tribe, and then like murder the men and the children, and then like kidnap the women.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Hate it when that happens.
anyway, that was
Yeah.
widely practiced. And okay, so that doesn't entail that they had incorrect moral beliefs, but probably they had incorrect moral beliefs, right? They
Yeah, right.
probably um, perceived
Yeah,
that as acceptable or something like that. Anyway,
yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah,
okay, so like yeah, so like if our moral sense came from God, then like shouldn't it be a lot better? And like why did it take like 2,000 years for us to claw our way up? And right, and so like
yeah,
what it looks like is well, we had a whole bunch of biases that we were endowed with, by biology and maybe by our culture,
yeah,
and we had to very slowly overcome, so like over
yeah,
generations, overcome the influence of all these biases to get more and more objective, a more and more
yeah,
objective view. Because like
yeah,
objectively, your tribe isn't better than the other tribe, but like
yeah,
people would keep like feeling like it is. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it looks like we're moving towards a more objective view.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I suppose it just depends on like your model of God. Like I mean, probably some form of perfect being theism is false, probably. But there's like, Philip Goff. He has this thing. God's not omnipotent, and like, okay,
Yeah,
maybe he's not. Maybe that could solve some problems, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like some evidence for intentionality.
yeah, yeah,
Like you would expect if there was no like force, a will behind the universe. I don't know. I don't
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, the other thing you might think is like, well, if God is like he's represented in traditional religions, like he should have given us some better books, right? Because
Yeah.
the moral guidance in the Bible is not that great, nor is the Quran. Um,
Yeah. The
like,
Old Testament, great man.
yeah, like
Oh,
we could have like told us that maybe like attacking other people because they disagree with you is bad. Like
yeah.
maybe he could have mentioned that slavery was bad.
Yeah.
Instead of giving advice on how to get your slaves, like what's the right way, where should you buy them and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's very interesting, right? I mean, like, maybe we can narrow it down to like an omni god. Maybe we can rule out the limited gods for a second. I mean, like, um, I don't know. Like, so there's a lot of terrible stuff in the Bible. There's also a lot of terrible stuff in reality. Um, I don't know. Like it's like highly, by my lights, if we do have moral intuition, that's like really high. That's like highly surprising, right? Given a bare naturalistic picture, right? So like it does actually seem to me it's like super strong evidence for theism if we do in fact have the moral intuitions, and the questions that you raised, they're like great questions. But like at the end of the day, like if perfect being theism is our only option, like I'm still going to be persuaded by it because like that seems like stronger evidence for perfect being theism then evil and bad things are evidence against it. Does that make sense?
I see. I mean, it's hard.
I don't know.
I guess it's hard to weigh those things.
Yeah.
We could go off and talk about the problem of evil and how strong that argument is. I think. Okay, so given the existence of intelligent life, I'm not very surprised by the existence of morality. In my characterization of morality a little earlier was that the moral point of view is the point of view that fairly takes into account all perspectives.
Yeah.
And and okay, so and I like it's not just like accidental that that's what morality is. Like that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and so and why would that evolve? Well, like we are social creatures, so you can see reasons why it could be valuable
Yeah.
to be able to take into account all perspectives fairly.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think that it's surprising. It's just surprising that there's intelligent life. It's surprising that there's consciousness. And it's surprising
Yeah.
that there's life. And
Yeah.
so
I agree.
I do think like that's a stronger basis for arguing for theism. So
Mm.
and
I mean, like I would probably say consciousness definitely is, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like I mean, first like it's just like it's, life is really bizarre. Just like as a physical object, a living thing is really bizarre. So,
Yeah.
like, if you didn't know about life, but somehow you were going around the cosmos looking for stuff, like, and then
You found
you'd see a
what?
bunch of rocks, you see a bunch of like big balls of gas and like giant fires or whatever, and
Yeah.
then like then you come here and this would be just completely bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then yeah, and then consciousness, like, why would there be consciousness? Like nobody knows the answer to that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, like I suppose like if what you're saying is kind of like a parody a little bit. I mean, I do think actually the life thing works because it doesn't seem as though like life in general is evidence for God because life is like highly surprising on naturalism, I guess. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would say that some kind of, you know, moral knowledge, and consciousness would probably be, more evidence for God. But yeah, I mean, so this is interesting because like this actually leads into like my third worry.
Yeah.
But who am I, right?
Yeah.
Maybe this is like a really like irrational way of thinking. I have a feeling it is. So it because of what we just said, if moral realism is true and we have reliable moral faculties, it seems as though that's strong evidence for God, right? And I actually like I'm kind of persuaded by some versions of moral arguments, not popular versions of moral arguments for God, but like I take their ideas and like I think about it. I'm like, that's probably evidence for God, morality in general, not just knowledge. And so I'm like, well, if morality is real and we have reliable intuitions about it, like that's like super strong evidence for God. But like, surely God can't exist. So like maybe it's not morality that's in our minds, right? Maybe it's just I don't know. I feel like that's one of the reasonings in my head, but I don't.
Oh, okay. So it's
I'm
like
probably right.
Cullen's.
Probably,
If morality is real, then it's likely that there's a God, but it's unlikely that there's a God. So,
yeah, that's it. Yeah,
um, I mean, I don't know how you assign the prior probability to morality existing. This is very puzzling, right? Okay, my view is that the moral facts are necessary.
yep, yep,
So, like, pain is bad, or whatever, intrinsically pro tanto bad or something, and that's a necessary truth. So, I guess it has
yeah,
a prior probability of one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah,
No, okay. Well, you might think, no, I'm confusing metaphysical necessity with epistemic necessity or something. Okay, so it doesn't have to have a probability of one, but
yeah,
if I can see it intuitively, I can see the
yeah,
necessity of it intuitively, then it's going to have a really high prior probability. So,
yeah, 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 yeah.
like, try to
Yeah,
imagine how the world would be if, like, pain and suffering was not bad. There's like, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. This is very interesting. Um, this is okay. So I was thinking about this a lot the other week. So I don't know if it seems to me that this is the case, but like,
Yeah.
it's not a bad idea, right? So I don't know. I don't know if bad situations are intrinsically bad. You know what I mean, right? So I wonder if you could have the bad situation without the property of badness. Like, why is that such a bad thing? That seems possible. And if that's possible, then it's a good question. Why is it bad? And maybe God can answer that question. So I
I mean, see, like when you described it completely abstractly like that, it might seem like that's possible. But if you describe what the bad thing is and then say, okay, now imagine that's not bad. Okay. So it's
yeah,
like the baby who's being tortured just for fun. And they're like, throwing the baby into the fire and it's screaming in pain, blah, blah, blah. And
yeah.
it's like, okay, so now imagine that, oh, that's happening, but it's not bad. What? I don't
Well,
know.
no, no, it's possibly not bad.
What?
It's possible, which might still seem crazy to you,
Well,
which is
but
fair. That's fair.
Well, I mean, saying it's possible is sort of like saying you could imagine a situation in which it's not bad, or
Yeah,
something like that. Now,
yeah,
okay, I don't know. We might say, oh, well, maybe it's unimaginable, but it's still possible.
yeah,
But
yeah.
then I don't know why.
Well, I mean, I think it's imaginable though. I mean, like, am I mistaken about my own like? I think that's imaginable. Right? I can imagine like a terrible scenario, just like not having the property of bad. Like that just seems like fine. Um,
I don't think
so
I can imagine this.
okay. I mean, maybe, but like, am I making something up? Like, I don't know.
um, I can imagine somebody saying that it's not bad, and I can imagine there being a person like a psychopath who doesn't care about it, and
Yeah.
and the psychopath doesn't understand morality, so he doesn't think that it's bad. Like that. There's all
Okay.
kinds. Maybe I
Yeah.
could imagine being a psychopath. I don't know. Um, but
Yeah.
but somebody tells me, yeah, but just like imagine the scenario so that the pain and suffering is the same. It's equally pointless, but it's just not bad.
Yeah.
Well,
Like it's like not that would ever happen, not that that would ever be the case,
yeah.
but like I can imagine a lot of weird stuff being the case that will never be the case. You know. So I mean,
Well,
I don't.
so it's like somebody just describes all of the facts of the case and then asks you to make a judgment. You're to morally evaluate this situation. Okay, and I've given you all of the I give you all the descriptive facts you want. Okay, and don't claim that you can't evaluate it, right? Because you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if you need more information, just tell me what the information is. Okay, but like the baby's being thrown in the fire, and it's feeling exactly the way you would feel if you were thrown in a fire, and
So, so
and this was just just for amusement of the person who's doing it. That was the only purpose.
hmm.
And then okay, and then I ask you, and what do you think of that situation? Evaluate that, good or bad.
Okay. I mean, so maybe like every possible world with people like us, and maybe we would always have the intuition that it's bad. Like maybe that's the case. Um, but
So
that doesn't mean that we're always right. Like perhaps in one of those worlds, like we have the intuition
well,
that it's
so
bad.
if you
Wrong.
want, you can imagine that the being who threw the baby in the fire is an alien, so and or whatever, or a psychopath or whatever, so they don't have a negative reaction. Okay, but I'm still asking you if you think that it was still bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's like again, like in every scenario, like it would seem bad, right? But I'm just saying that it does seem as though there's at least one possible world in which the property of badness wouldn't be there, right? It would just be neutral, right? But then again, I mean, that might just be like a conflict of intuitions or something, because I think John completely sides with you, and we just like go back and forth.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know how that possible world is supposed to differ from the other possible world where it is bad and exactly the same thing happened.
Well, it wouldn't be bad.
Are happening in these two possible worlds, but in one case it's bad, in the other case it's not bad. What?
Hmm.
And the same thing. And, like
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
in saying that it's like you're evaluating two identical things differently.
Well, suppose they wouldn't be like numerically identical because one wouldn't be
Yeah,
bad,
they're
right?
qualitatively yeah. Well, they're
Yeah,
qualitatively identical in all non-evaluative respects, and then you're
yeah,
evaluating the facts differently in the two cases. And I'm like, well, okay, what's the reason for the different evaluations? You're like, nothing. Just one of them was just bad,
yeah.
and the other one not bad for no reason.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, maybe we can zoom out slightly. I mean, if what I'm saying is true, would that be some evidence for God? Who knows?
Oh, all right. Because God wanted to make there be moral facts.
Yeah.
Is that what we would expect? If there were a God, would God create the moral facts if he had the ability? I guess. I don't know. Why would he do that?
So that's very interesting, right? Because like a lot of people that I talk to about like philosophy, religion, and stuff, like they like to identify God with goodness. Like goodness is primary, then everything else flows out of goodness, right? But I don't know because of what we've been talking about, and this, I feel like I'm like one of very few people who like think about morality in this way. But it seems as though like because God creates moral facts and he creates morality, maybe it's grounded in love. Like maybe love is primary, and then goodness flows out of that. So he creates rules about people that he loves, right? So he's first and foremost loving, right?
Yeah.
And everything else. And that's different than tradition and what most people say, but it's an idea. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. But okay, now, but yeah, but I still don't know why he's creating moral facts. Okay, so he could make so like here's a reason why God might create other things. Like we might think, yeah, why like why is the existence of life an argument for God anyway? And what's usually said is, well, because life is valuable,
Yeah,
and like almost everything that's valuable requires life, and so that's why God would have created it. So like he had a reason to create it.
yeah,
He likes goodness because he's good. Okay, but
yeah.
then there's can't be anything like that to explain why God created the moral facts because it can't be that it was
Yeah,
good
exactly.
because
Yeah,
there weren't any moral facts before he created them, so it wasn't
yeah,
true that it would be good to create them, and nothing would be good or
exactly.
bad, nor
Yeah,
were there obligations. In fact, I think reasons are moral facts, so there wouldn't
yeah,
you wouldn't have any reason for doing it or for doing anything else.
yeah.
So
So like the way I'm thinking about it, right? So like I mean, not that morality is just a bunch of rules, right? Because it's more than just rules, right? It's facts, good and bad. But I do kind of think of it like maybe like a chess game, right? And so like there's perhaps a bunch of chess pieces, right? But then like someone's got to create the rules, right? And so like maybe God would have reason to create beings like himself, right? and then he might have reason to create rules about those beings and their relationship with him as well, right? And those rules would be something like morality,
Yeah.
right? And it has a deeper explanation in terms of love, loving people like himself, or persons.
Right.
This is the thought. I'm testing the waters here. So
I mean, so I could have reasons for. So like we're gonna play a game, and then like we could have reasons for playing the game, and then we have to have rules. And so I would have a
yep,
reason for making the rules, and that reason would have to do with, you know, maybe it will cause enjoyment, and maybe enjoyment is good. So, and like it won't be fun to play a game if there are no rules. So, okay, so I got to make some rules, okay. But then,
yeah,
there can't be anything like that about God creating the rules.
yeah,
We're,
yeah.
yeah, it weren't anything
Mhm.
about good or bad either. And then you're like, okay, well, but maybe God was just loving, and that wasn't good, by the way, to begin with.
No, it wasn't. That's really helpful because it wasn't.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So love wasn't good. It wasn't good to we weren't good. God wasn't
yeah.
good.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad either.
Yeah, it was all neutral.
yeah,
But then, but he just happened to be loving, and then a loving being would create morality. Why?
yeah.
So you might think, oh well, I don't know, because then that will make it possible for people to experience good things, but it would also make it possible for them to experience bad things. I don't know, and also
Mhm.
why create obligations, because then people are just going to fail a bunch of their obligations. So
yeah,
maybe if I were
yeah,
to be loving, I would give them no obligations, that everything they did was okay.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean all of that's very fair. I mean, like, there's a lot of work to be done, but like, I mean, I think I'm like departing from a lot of people that I talk to when I appeal to love as a foundation for morality, because like, I don't know. This is as a side. I mean, I do think maybe like Bill Craig's version of the moral argument and other people's version of the moral argument suffer from Euthyphro objections, right? I mean, I love Emerson Green. He's great. I want to meet him someday. But like y'all two's conversations, y'all talked about that, and I think those arguments suffer from that problem. And it's hard for me to articulate to people. But that's why I think we need a different moral argument, something like what I'm saying. But there are counterintuitive implications, right? That like God's love is not good, right? And so like maybe that's
Yeah.
so
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so like, yeah, why do we think that, like, why is it so important for Christians to talk about how God is loving? It's because they value love, because they think that love is good.
Because love would be good. Yeah,
Like, that's why they care about it. If you didn't think that it was good, then you wouldn't be going around talking about how loving God was.
yeah, yeah,
And like,
yeah,
just if love wasn't good, then the fact that God has this property wouldn't make it so that his commands had moral force.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's very fair. Yeah, I need to think more about that. But like, I think there's something there, something worth exploring. But if that doesn't work, I mean, the moral argument's there, the moral knowledge argument's there. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, what do you think about the general idea of morality suggests the existence of God? God doesn't exist, therefore morality doesn't exist.
Well,
Is that a argument? Maybe.
well, I mean, the first thing is I don't agree with the first premise. And
Okay.
the other thing is I think the existence of morality is more certain than not.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's more plausible to accept God than it is to reject morality.
Yeah, that's fair. I thought about that. Yeah, I mean, those are my objections to moral realism, but I'm not sure. I mean, one thing that really fascinates me about what you talk about is you talk about linguistics and language, and you actually look into language to find moral realism, and it's very interesting because like when I like first started questioning my like anti-realism, it was me and John talking about my usage of language, right? Because I would say something like, well, like when you say something's bad, like all you mean is boo or something. It's like that's actually just not true,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like I don't think that's the case. I don't know what it means,
Yeah.
but because of the three reasons I gave you, it doesn't seem like like objective moral facts. But I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. 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 I mean, like the standard objection that you probably heard from your friend many times was you can't explain these sentences in which the moral term is used, but the person is not actually evaluating something. So, like,
Yeah,
if it's wrong to do something, then it's wrong to pay your little brother to do it.
yeah,
And then it's really hard to
yeah,
explain what
yeah,
that means if it's wrong to do X isn't a proposition. So I think, okay,
Yeah.
if Buon doing something, then Buon paying your little brother to do something, that
Yeah.
just doesn't make any
That-
sense.
That's, that's no, I mean, like, any explanation for what that sentence could possibly mean on a non-realist account, it feels like grasping at straws. um, like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. You could give alternate explanations. You could say something like, "Well, you disapprove of X, Y, Z," um, and yeah,
I mean,
I don't
people,
know.
well, like people have given attempts to explain some of these things, and they're all like they're ad hoc, so you have to give a different
Yeah,
account for each like, each sentence form. Okay,
yeah,
so it's something like what I heard was maybe this came from Blackburn or somebody. Anyway, one of these expressivists that the sentence is expressing disapproval towards people having a combination of attitudes in which they disapprove of doing an action but approve of getting one's little brother to do that action. Okay, so you're
that's a lot.
disapproving of that combination of attitudes, and like that's what the conditional means. Now,
Yeah,
notice that that is not in general how we analyze conditionals.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, so the
Retreating.
view would have it that there's this ambiguity in whatever in the if then when it's
Hmm.
used for moral statements, and then they're going to wind up like saying something like that about everything, just like every sentence in the English language where you can embed an evaluation or where you can embed a proposition in a larger proposition, they're going to have to say, oh yeah, and they're all coincidentally they're all ambiguous, and there's like an ad hoc explanation of what it means
Mm.
in each case for if there's a moral statement that's different from what it means if there's a descriptive statement.
That is very interesting. That I think I'm gonna find more realism in language. Like that's so interesting because like it just doesn't seem like there's any plausible account of like what a moral language means aside from reference to maybe some kind of more realistic picture.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean that's interesting. Yeah. No. I think we covered morality and phenomenal conservatism. I mean, like, do you want to talk about veganism a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
So
support
tell my
vegan.
audience why they should all be vegans.
Yeah, yeah. Torture is bad. Wait, do I have my book here? Okay. And yeah, everybody should buy my book, Dialogues on Ethical Vegetarianism, which just came out in a second edition this summer. So
Sick. Awesome. Cool.
anyway, yeah. Um, I mean, it's really about why it's wrong to buy the products from factory farms, which are almost all animal products come from factory farms. Okay, so don't ask whether the thing that you bought came from a factory farm because it
It did.
unless you have like very specific evidence that it didn't. Um,
Yeah.
so, and what are these factory farms? They're basically like torture factories. So like basically, and if you want to, you can go on YouTube and look for the videos of how they're abusing the animals on these farms. And if you're
Yeah.
a normal person, you're going to find it horrifying. Nobody looks at them and says, "Yeah,
More.
that's cool. I'm sure they're having a good time there." Like,
Yeah.
like nobody disagrees that there's a lot of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Um, but most people are not going to look at them, and the fact that you're not looking at them is probably because you know that you'd be horrified, and then you would feel worse about the thing that you're planning on doing anyway. You know,
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
it's wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, okay. And what's the philosophical argument? I don't know. Like, I just think that you shouldn't cause an enormous amount of suffering for the sake of trivial benefits for yourself. And if
Yeah.
you disagree with that, then I don't know what moral claim you would accept.
No,
Just-
there's a sense in which like it's kind of obvious. Like you
yeah,
shouldn't like do that.
yeah. Like, is
Yeah.
there any better example of a thing that you shouldn't do?
Oh
Is
yeah.
is
For
there
real.
a clearer
Yeah.
case of a wrongful
Yeah.
action?
No, it's kind of weird when like people have arguments for veganism because like honestly it just does kind of seem like obvious. Not to be a jerk to people who aren't vegans, but I don't know. I mean, there's not much I can say. Like I don't know, paying someone to cause the suffering of the animal,
Yeah,
that's a bad thing. You
yeah.
wouldn't do it with like random cats in your neighborhood. So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
yeah, right. So the first part of the argument was why factory farming is wrong, but then given that it's wrong, is it wrong to buy the product? Well, generally, you shouldn't pay other people to do things that are horribly wrong,
Yeah.
and buying the product is paying people to do that. Okay,
Yeah.
and then you might think, oh, but not really, because like I didn't specifically request them to torture the animal, but you do know that that's what they're doing. That's how they get the product.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's sort of like if there's a used. I used this example in the book in the dialogues. There's a used car salesman, and you just happen to know that where he gets his used cars is he murders drivers and then steals their cars, and then he sells them.
Yeah.
It's totally cool to go and buy cars from that guy. No,
Probably not.
not okay, right?
Yeah.
Even though you didn't
Yeah.
specifically tell him to do that, if you know that that's where he gets the cars, you can't buy them.
Yeah. So this is interesting, right? Because like one thing I thought about a lot, like I think two summers ago, I like missed meat, and I was like coming up with philosophical arguments against veganism, and like they all failed. So I was really sad at the end of the summer. But no, but like one line of thinking was something like maybe there's this some kind of economic distance between us and the animal, right? Because like it's not like I'm going up to someone like who's about to slaughter the cow and say, okay, here is my money, you slaughtered the cow. It's kind of like
Yeah.
I'm going to the cashier and that money is going to be sent to some technological database, and like someone might look at it, and then like it's just so like distant, and it's like really like what impact are you having, you know and I don't, and so I've also realized this, like sometimes it just does not matter what impact you're having, right? Because like I suppose honestly, like voting is a really good example for me when I describe this to people, because it seems as though like there's kind of an obligation to vote. I mean, you might disagree with that in general, but like it seems as though there's an obligation to vote, even though you're not going to actually like change the vote, right?
Yeah.
There's something like intrinsically good about voting in general, right?
Well,
But like, yeah, but if there's much of a distance between you, like maybe there's an argument to be had that it's fine to buy it.
oh, yeah. I mean, my story about the used car salesman. Like, what if I add a bunch of additional steps? Like
Yeah,
the original
I mean,
owner then sent the car across the country and it was sold by a different person.
yeah,
Or like, what if I say, oh, actually, this is a really big operation. It's not
yeah,
just a few people. Like he murders thousands of people every year. So now is it okay to buy the product? No.
no.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you had maybe a concrete case and you actually spelled out like the economic distance between you, maybe it would the intuition would like fuel less heavy or something that we shouldn't buy it. But I don't know. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
I don't. I don't know.
Well, there is. I mean, there's sort of like a lack of knowledge. Like you can't identify
Yeah,
specific animals that you harmed, and that tends to cause that weakens people's reactions, right? And, okay,
yeah,
but if you think about it rationally, could that
yeah.
possibly make it okay? Just because you
That's
didn't
not irrelevant.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, no, I mean, I have a question. Do you think it's intrinsically wrong to eat meat?
No.
Like, even if you're not contributing suffering, just
Well,
like eating.
I mean, some people have talked about things like this, like you find roadkill. It's like the
Yeah,
animal was killed, and like you didn't cause it to be killed. It was, but it's there, it's dead. Now can
yeah,
you eat it? Yeah,
yeah,
why not? I don't, I
yeah,
mean, I don't know if it would be exactly healthy, but anyway, like
yeah,
it wouldn't be unethical.
yeah. So, I mean, imagine like your boss invites you over for dinner or something, and they buy a turkey, right? Like, do you think it's permissible to eat that turkey? Like, let's say, well, I mean, would you think you're contributing to something?
I mean, so you should tell the person beforehand that you're a vegan, and then they would
Obviously,
make a
yeah,
vegan meal. Um, and otherwise, yeah, you are kind of inducing people to buy meat for you,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is
Well, so like, let's say you say I want the vegan option, and they're like, no, and they buy it.
so.
Are you doing wrong by going
Oh,
and
why
eating?
should you not go? I mean, this doesn't happen among normal people.
So,
I suppose then you should decline the invitation.
yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
and so I don't know if it, whatever. I don't know all the ethics of it, but like one thing is you don't want to portray that this is like a trivial preference for you.
Okay,
You want to
that's fair.
portray that this is a moral restriction.
Yeah,
And so yeah, so they should understand that you would rather not have dinner at all.
yeah, that's fair. Um, yeah, I mean, here's something that is weird, and I haven't heard anyone talk about it. So this might be the first podcast ever where someone talks about this. So I told you before the recording that I'm joining the Navy. Okay, so it took me a long time to actually join because there's a lot of unethical animal stuff that happens, right? So one, you don't get to choose what you eat. Okay, that's one factor. There's also various kinds of trainings that involve uh, the torture of animals, I suppose, when you don't need to torture them. You could have simulations. And so for a long time, I was like, I'm doing something wrong by joining the military. And by the way, if you say that it's wrong, it's fine. Like, I think we're having a conversation. But I want to, like, what do you think about that? Like, what?
Uh, yeah,
I literally don't care. Just like, I'm wondering. It's like an
it
ethical
is kind
question.
of sounding wrong when you put it that way.
No, no.
The other
Yeah.
moral concern I have is, well, you may be deployed to an unjust war.
So I thought about that too a little bit. Um,
So you could be, killing people in addition to causing animals to be killed.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and it's like, okay, and like in the event when that happens, it's gonna be hard at that point to not do it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know what
No,
happens if you try to not fight when you're deployed.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's situations and trainings where there's survival trainings, and you're put in bad situations, and you have to fend for yourself, and you have to end up killing animals and stuff. Yeah, I mean that's a common objection, as if it's an objection to me. People say, "Well, what if you're in a survival situation and you have to?" It's like, well, maybe, but like I thought about that with the military. It's like, well, if I'm in a survival situation, like it's permissible, right? But if it's part of the training and I'm choosing to put myself in that survival scenario, like maybe that's not ethical. But yeah,
Yeah,
so I've thought about
yeah. I mean, so like I'm a little worried about saying this because we have to have a military.
it. Yeah,
At least
yeah,
you know, one day I would like us to not need a military. I would like there to be no militaries anywhere. Um,
that's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay.
but but we, like we can't unilaterally disarm right now.
Yeah,
But they probably don't have to. Um, they probably don't have to train in that way. You know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I do suppose you could say like, I mean, people are joining the military, so you don't have to. um,
That's right.
but like, I
There's
mean,
zero chance that we're going to be taken over if you don't join. It's already
yeah.
like the most powerful military in the world by far. So like nothing's going to happen if you don't join.
Yeah, no, I thought about this a little while back. I mean, like, imagine like everyone just like snaps their fingers and they're like all vegan or something. And so like now you have people who are like, I don't want to join the military because it's unethical, right? Like, so now imagine no one joins the military. Do you think the military would like change their actions?
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. So that yeah, if they knew what was happening, then yes. But the
Yeah,
fact is that there's no pressure on them because almost none of the potential recruits are vegan. So
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I just thought I would ask about that. That's very interesting. Yeah, I'm also wondering about health concerns. Because I've had this conversation with many people, and you probably got the whole protein slash vitamin B12 conversation with it. But yeah, are you getting enough protein? Like, yes, I'm more focused on protein than you've ever been in your life because of the vegan.
yeah,
But yeah, like I thought about this. Like people say, well, if your health's at risk, you need to be eating meat. But like, I'm not sure if purchasing animal products or consuming meat is a good enough reason to keep yourself from being at least mildly sick. Like this, it's a little bit controversial. I feel like, but like you can sacrifice some health. I feel like it's worth it. But I don't know.
yes. I mean, I did some research about the health effects of vegetarian and vegan diets. There have been studies of this. I found a meta-analysis that reviewed many different studies, and they're studying different questions, effects on particular kinds of cancer or heart disease or other outcomes like that. Okay. Um,
Yeah,
Generally, it looks like vegetarians and vegans have better health
yeah,
overall. So on these multiple different things, there was no study that found that the vegetarians and vegans had like higher disease. Okay,
yeah,
there are cases where they're more likely to be malnourished with respect to particular nutrients. Meat eaters are also more likely to be malnourished with respect to different nutrients. Okay,
yeah, yeah, 100%.
but like if you're vegan, there is a risk of vitamin B12 deficiency. So you have to make a specific effort.
Yeah,
There
you can go
are
to CV and get the vitamins.
yeah, there are supplements, okay,
Yeah.
that are vegan friendly, and also I consider clams and scallops and things like that to be fair game because these things have no brain, and they do have vitamin B12 and omega-3 fatty acids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, but back to this meta-analysis, like so there are like point estimates for the risk ratios, so like risk of developing heart disease or risk of stroke, whatever. Um, okay, so the point estimates for the risk ratios are all lower for the vegans. I had a chart in
Yeah.
the book that I was looking for, but I didn't find. Um,
Mm.
but most of them are not statistically significant. But a few of them were statistically significant. Okay, but it was striking that there are like 12 of these things, and the point estimates are all you know like
Yeah.
under one for the risk ratio, meaning you lower your risk. Okay,
Yeah.
so overall, I don't know. Like you can't
Yeah.
say, oh, like yeah, after looking at the evidence, I have to eat meat for my health.
Yeah. No. 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 Yeah. Absolutely not. Yeah. Yeah. No. The objection's kind of brought up as if veganism's a massive health concern or something. But there are things you can do. But I do suppose like it's a good question for some people. Like I imagine there's fringe cases
Oh, wait,
where
okay, here's the
perhaps
video. Oh, I can't show it because
yeah, it's
okay.
kind of hard to see.
Anyway,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
anyway. Get my book and then it's on page 120.
Everyone buy his book right now. But yeah, so I mean, I do imagine there's some fringe cases. What would you say to them? Do you think that some people should actually endure some amount of sickness? I mean, that actually seems kind of plausible. Now, then again, I don't have to deal with sickness, so like who am I, right? But I mean, ethically speaking, I mean,
Yes, right, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So you could be obligated to endure minor costs, right? It's like, come on, man, you
yeah,
know, like
yeah,
who promised you that morality would be completely costless? I want to do the right thing, but only if there's no cost to me at all. Okay, now, like I do
yeah,
believe that you can kill other animals to survive, right? And by the
yeah,
way, maybe you can also kill other people to survive. It just sort of depends on the conditions, right? But like,
yeah,
like if
yeah,
somebody's threatening you, you can kill them,
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
survive.
yeah,
Right, but
yeah,
so definitely you can kill an animal if it's threatening you,
yeah,
and also if you're about to starve, you know.
yeah,
But that's
yeah.
not the case for almost any of almost any of the two viewers of this podcast.
Yeah.
That would not be the case.
Yeah, no, well, I'm losing my train of thought. I had a thing to say. Well, I mean, there does seem to be a relevant difference between, um, killing something for food, killing something in self-defense. Um, I don't know. I remember what my question was. I'm not gonna like pin you down, like draw a line, like give me the exact time when someone's health is so bad that they can eat meat. But what would be maybe draw the line? Like
I
where would you draw the line?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe approximately generally. I don't know.
but fortunately we don't have to answer this. Like, like most line drawing questions, we don't have to answer because we're not anywhere near the line. So
Yeah,
like, if it's
yeah,
like, oh, I get a little bit more pleasure when I
yeah.
torture and kill these other creatures, like, no.
That's a dumb. No.
You can't like inflict suffering that's like 1,000 times greater than the pleasure that you're getting.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Um, yeah. I think those are all my points on veganism, unless I had something else. Well, I mean, one more question. I have this written down. What do you think the future of veganism is? Do you think like everyone's gonna convert tomorrow, or like how long will it take for? I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, I mean, we have people working on synthetic meat, so this
Yeah,
is like, they whatever took some cells from an animal and then they're able to grow them into pieces of meat without killing any
oh, they like
animals.
cells of the animal. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, you have to take some original cells in order to be able to grow the meat. Okay, but
Okay.
you don't have to torture or kill anyone, and you only have to do this once. Okay, and so synthetic meat actually exists, but you can't get it in the U.S. I don't think. Um, you can get it in Singapore, but okay, I assume what's going to happen is that is going to spread. Ultimately, it will become cheaper. I think right now it's more expensive, but I think ultimately
Yeah.
cheaper because basically, growing an entire animal so that you can cut off the muscles is wasteful
Mm,
in principle.
yeah. Yeah.
Could be lower energy costs for just getting the part that you want. And then, okay, and so when it's cheaper, and it might also be better, because
Yeah.
like they might design it to have just the right amount of fat, or like you can choose whether you want
Yeah.
fatty meat or lean meat or whatever, and
Yeah.
you have more control. Okay, so then when it's cheaper and better, then almost everyone will switch over, but not
Yeah.
everyone, because there will still be some assholes who are like, oh, I want the real thing.
Oh my gosh.
That
Yeah.
stuff is fake meat. I don't want that. Anyway,
So
however,
wait, that's crazy. So like the engineered meat is like going to be just like the real meat. Like
it'll be physically real meat, right?
okay, so it's not like impossible meat or like the fake meat or like the discount meat. It's
Yeah,
like
it's not plants, right? It's
okay.
actual, like,
Yeah.
literally the stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
yeah, I've forgotten the name of that company doing this. Synthetic meat, but I could look it up on the internet so that we can tell your two
that's
sources. What if I look up synthetic meat?
So are they doing it in America?
Well, I don't think so yet. Um, oh, okay. There's a Wikipedia article has a picture of the first cell cultured hamburger. So they made it. They made a hamburger. It was really expensive to make it, but
How much did it cost?
I don't know, whatever,
Okay.
millions of dollars or something like.
Yeah.
Well, because like you have to do a bunch of research in order to make
Yeah. Yeah.
the first one.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so interesting though.
let's see. So one day we'll be able to buy this, hopefully in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
Um, okay, well, Wikipedia lists a bunch of companies working on this, and on the website. Okay, anyway, well, I don't know. People could look that up if they want.
Yeah. I mean, I am thinking like I mean, people still buy like wool coats when they can buy alternatives because the wool coat is the real thing, And so like
That's
there probably still are going to be a lot of people who are like, I'm going to get the real meat.
yeah. Okay, so there's a company called Eat Just.
Okay.
I think are working on the meat as well. They also have like fake scrambled eggs.
Oh,
So
okay.
like you could buy this bottle of scrambled egg stuff, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be surprised by how egg-like it is. Like you cook it, and then it feels like it's scrambled eggs.
That's cool. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so I mean if we advance more with this new meat stuff, do you think it's going to be a lot more vegan?
yes, right. Well, they technically won't be vegan because it will be meat, but
Okay.
it'll be
Yeah, that's fair.
cruelty-free
Yeah.
meat. So
Yeah.
yeah, like when it's totally in everybody's interest to give up the factory farm products, then they will. And then after that, I predict that people will start accepting the moral arguments.
Once it's fine.
When the last generation that was raised on real meat has died, then the next
Yeah.
generation will be like, God, I can't believe those assholes of the
Yeah.
previous generations. How could they
Once
do
the
that? Right? Which is like what we say about the slaveholders in our past. Oh, I can't believe my great grandfather, whatever. And he's such
Yeah.
an asshole. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I was talking to my vegan friend about this. I mean, like, it's gonna be a really weird situation. Like, if I have a grandchild and they ask me, they're like, 7, and they're like, and imagine we live in a vegan world. A 7-year-old is like, Grandpa, like, why in the world did you eat these cows? That's insane. No one does that now. And I have to look at the kid and be like, I don't know.
yeah. Well,
Kid.
it was enjoyable. It's like, why
It
do
tastes
people have
good.
slaves? I mean, we wanted cheap labor. We wanted some work to get done so we could get money, and we didn't want to pay the people. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's
right. But I mean,
that's gonna.
part of the story was social pressure, right? Like, why would a person so like, oh, everybody today thinks slavery is wrong. So if you ask people, would you hold slaves? They'd be like, no, I would never do that. But if they were actually in that society, they would do that
They would. Yeah.
because they would feel differently about it if everyone else was
Yeah.
doing it. So yeah, if
Yeah.
you're in a society in which everyone is doing the horrible thing, then you
Yeah.
just don't feel bad about it.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed. I mean, like, it's not actually that hard to choose something different on the menu, I suppose. I mean, it's a little inconvenient. I mean, it's a little more expensive though. Like, I mean, especially if you're gonna get like a bunch of protein and crap. But like, yeah, it's not crazy that difficult. It seems difficult when you start, but it's like, it's not that bad. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, well, I mean, I think that's a good spot to end things, I suppose, if that's fine with you.
All right. Yep. It's been
Yeah.
great talking with you, and thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me.
Yeah. Yeah. Where can people find you on your social and everything?
So, I recommend subscribing to my blog, Fake News, Fakenous, on
Substack.
Substack. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and also go to Amazon and buy all of my books.
And download all of his papers. He has like 2 million of them.
Yeah.
So
Slight exaggeration, but written 90 papers, but
well,
close to 2 million. Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much for doing this too. Like, yeah. I mean, like, I am no one, and Dr. Michael Huemer came and he talked to me. This is great. Yeah. So
I like philosophy. I like talking about philosophy. So it was good. It was good.
yeah.
Good talk.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. Great. Cool.